Right, so yeah, I just found out what was the issue. So over here the content type should be JPG instead of JPEG, because over here the file type is JPG. So now if we uh, try to compile, and if we try to execute, and then let's make a request to the server, say just hello, no need PHP. Okay, if we make the request, okay, so now okay, let's go check the image quickly. So this is the image. So take a look at the response. So you can, by looking at this top part, you can say that the image is being sent, but it's not rendering completely. So why is that happening? So this is intentional, right? So so what's happening over here is that if we take a look at the send file function, okay, so the send file function, what it does is that it takes the file that's referred by this file descriptor and send it to the socket referred by this file descriptor, and it writes the number of bytes defined in this argument. So right now it's 4096, so it's 4096, so which is roughly 4 kilobytes. Okay, so but if we take a look at the size of the image, right, so let's go there and check the size of the image. uh, you can see the size of the image is actually 353 kilobytes, 353, 350 or 360. Right. So that's the problem. So from roughly 350 kilobytes, we are only sending 4 kilobytes. So that 4 kilobytes we sent from the server is being rendered. So yeah, that's the issue. So what we need to do over here is that instead of giving a hard coded file size, we should get the size of the file and included it in over here instead of this. Right. For that, there is a header file we need to include. To get the file size, we need a function, and there's a header file we need to include, which is says / stat.h. Right. And what we are going to do is, after opening up the file, we are going to create a new variable called file stat that belongs to the data type struct stat. Okay, so we created a new variable. This variable will hold the data about the open file, and it belongs to this data type. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to call the function fstat. So that's how we are linking the fstat file stat variable with the file we want. Okay, so the first one is the file descriptor, so it should be opened file descriptor, and then uh, the memory location of the file stat. Alright, so now what we can do is, instead of including instead of using the buffer value, we can say that file stat dot st size, and uh, now we get the from this we get the original size of the file. So there's another thing we should do, and that is that when you are sending a large file, we should include the size in the header. Alright, so for that we have to dynamically format this. As you can see over here, I'm hard coding the header value, but to include the value of the if you want to include the file size, we have to dynamically structure this, and to do that there's a function called sprintf. So let's check it out. Okay, so man, so what printf does is that it belongs to the family of functions which printf belongs to. So the difference between printf and printf is that printf formats a string and prints that formatted string into the terminal, whereas printf formats a string and puts it inside an empty array. Okay, that's the only difference between those two. So if I try out a small example here. Okay, let's first of all define a empty array. So let's call it and put like what 128 bytes. So we have defined an empty array over here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna first of all define the array where we're gonna put the value, put the formatted string, and then I'm gonna format the string something like this hello, and let's create a variable as well. It x equals what 89. Okay, so hello world, I am the something like this. Okay, and then this and then you need to include the variable. So what it's going to do is that, so it's gonna format this two strings and put them inside this arr variable and make it a one string. Okay, so if you want to check the value, what you can do is that you can use printf and just print the value. Okay, so if I let's create another terminal, then let's compile, let's execute. So it's basically gonna uh, give this two strings formatted properly, and by checking the output, I think you can get an idea what this does. So that's what we need to do over here. So what we are doing is that we define the header, all right, and then we put the values inside the header using printf. So let's say its buffer size, then remove this part, it's not necessary, and let's copy this. I'll take care of this and go on later. Printf, so header, and I need to include these two here, and then let's get rid of this symbol. Okay, so this is basically doing the same thing what we did before, and there's one thing we need to do, and that is we need to include the content length. Right, give me a moment, I need to double check that. Wait, oops. So it's content length. So what we need to do is we need to include content length. It should be uh, the value of file stat dot st slice. Oh, okay, there we go. And it's usually good practice to put this last two in another string. And oh, sorry, there you go. That's better. So what we're doing is that we created a header, which is an empty array, and then we are gonna format this bunch of strings and then put it inside the header. So let's try to run the code now and see how it's gonna turn out to be. So let's compile. Okay, there's an issue. Int. Oh, it's taking a long. So over here the format specifier should be LD instead of D, which stands for long. Okay, so D uh, D is for integers, LD is for long data type. So it's hopefully that, yeah, that resolves the issue. Let's execute the program. A.out. Now it's running. Now let's resend the request, and we get the entire image. Right. So yeah, that's how we should be sending a file from the web server. So instead of hard coding the file size using buffer size, we should get the file size using this function and then include it over here. And then it's always good idea to include the content length as well in the header. Alright, so yeah, that's it. Once if that's clear, then let's go to the uh, let's go to process the request. Alright, so before processing the request, I need to talk a little bit about strings and uh, some couple of functions that we need to know. Alright, so give me a second. So let's go over here. So we all know that a string is basically a array of characters. Okay, so we can create a string like this. We can use a string using this syntax. Okay, so this is a string. Like if you can print the value using the s format specifier. That's slash n hello one. Then we compile this and run it. So it's gonna give us hello. This is something what we are very familiar with. So what I want to point out is that since this is a array of characters, it's actually written like this. So let's create another one called hello2, and it's actually this is how it's the oh, that should be O, not 0. Oh, thank you. And then let's see. So this is the way. Even though we use this syntax, this is actually what happens under the hood. So it's uh, it's this string. Okay, let's call it a string. This string gets broken down into characters and they are stored like this, and every string ends with this null terminator. So now the null terminator indicates the end of a string. Alright, so if I try to print hello2 as well, f1 2, so let's see what we are gonna get. Compile, see it, we are gonna get the same thing. Alright, so what I want to point out is that let's use a little bit of array knowledge we have. We know that the array name is a pointer to the base address. So base address means the array name is a pointer to the first element in the array. So what we are technically doing is that to the printf function we are forwarding a pointer that's pointing to the first element of the array, and it's gonna read until it finds the null character. But if I want like to start reading from, let's say, the first L, so what I can do is that instead of passing the memory address of the first element, I can pass the memory address of the third element, which is the base address plus 2. So if I compile and execute this, what I'm going to get this double LO. So it's going to start reading from here, going to read until uh, it finds the null character. Yeah, you need the null character, otherwise it's not going to work as expected. Alright, so uh, so that knowledge, what knowing that, what we are technically doing over here is that we are using the uh, memory address of the first character is gonna come in handy when you are going to process the request. Alright, so yeah, so let's say that I want to copy the value over here into another array. So let's create another one, let's call it CP, and give like 32 bytes. Okay, and then let's remove this as well, we don't need it anymore. So to copy a string, you're gonna need a header file called string.h. Alright, so what I can do is that strcpy, that's the function you use to copy one string from copy a string from one array to the other. So the first argument we need to pass is the destination, which is CP, and the source is hello2. And if I print CP, okay, it should give me hello. It gives me hello. So if I want like copy from the E instead of starting from H, I can pass hello2 plus 1. So that's the memory address of E. So if I compile and execute again, it's gonna start copying from here by passing the capital H. So keep that in your mind, that when we are dealing with strings, what we are technically doing is that we are using the pointer to a particular character in the string, in the array. Alright, so yeah, when those strings are stored in memory, they are stored like, I'm not gonna draw a diagram. Okay, let's say that this is memory. So it's usually stored like this. No need to and some other stuff. All right. So uh, and then yeah. So this null terminate, as I said, indicates the end of the file. So since that's out of the way, let's talk about couple of functions we need to process the HTTP request. The first one is strtok. So this one is strtok, which stands for string tokenizer. So what it does is that it so let's say that there's a string. Let's get rid of these things quickly. Okay. So let's say that there is a what apple, yeah, banana and strawberry. Okay. So over here we have string that's separated by commas. So let's say that I want to get the first, so I want to get the values uh, that's separated by this comma. So I want to get the apple, banana and strawberry into 3 strings instead of 1. Okay, so the problem is that you don't know the memory address of where uh, each word starts. Okay, so what we can do is that we can use the strtok function. So what it does is that let's check it out, man pages first. Strtok, oh sorry, str and str. Okay, so if we take a look at its man pages, uh, what it does is that it returns a character pointer, and we need to pass the string and the delimiter. I'll explain what the delimiter is later. Okay, so what it does, okay, so let's call the no let's call the function, let's call it post1, and then call the function string talk, pass the string which is and the delimiter is the character that separates each word. Okay, so in our case it's the comma. So what happens when I call this function is that this thing is stored in memory uh, like this. Give me a moment. Yes. So like if I put a forward slash after each, oops, that didn't work. So you guys get an idea what I'm trying to do, right? So I'm not gonna do it for this. I might have to. Can give me a second. And that's enough. Yeah, it's so let's say that it's stored in memory like this, and then couple of points. Okay, so this is how it's stored, and at the end uh, there's going to be the null terminator. Okay, like this. So this is how this string is stored. So what happens when we call strtalk is that when we call it for the first time, it's gonna replace the first instance of the delimiter with the null character. So uh, let's say wait, back. So this is how uh, this uh, this string is stored in memory right now. And when I call the strtalk function, it's gonna replace the first instance it finds of the delimiter with the null terminator. So it's gonna start looking. So alright. So it's gonna replace the first instance of the delimiter with the null terminator, and forward the memory address of the first character that comes before this. So it's gonna return the memory address of A. Alright. So post1 is technically the memory address of A. So if I try to print the value, what's gonna happen is that I'm gonna pass post1. So it's gonna start reading from A and gonna read until this null character. So if I compile and execute, it's gonna give me apple. And then if I want to get banana, what I do is I call the strtalk function again. Let's call it post2 and strtalk. And now what we are doing is, instead of passing the string, we are going to pass null. So what happens when we pass null is that instead of using a new string, it's going to use the string it used in its previous instance. Alright. So over here, when the strtalk was called for the first time, it used this ARR string, and now since I'm passing null, it's going to use this one, and it's going to start from where it left. So it's going to start from B, and it's going to read until it finds the next delimiter, uh, and then you replace it with a null terminator, and then gonna replace then gonna return the memory address of b. So if I try to print the value now, right, so what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get apple and banana. So that's what's happening. So over here, as I said, the memory address gets forwarded in this printf function. It's going to read until it finds a null character. So we can use other delimiters as well. So let's say that banana and strawberry was separated using a forward slash. So when I call strtalk for the second time, it's going to start from capital B, and I need to separate it based on the forward slash. So it's going to read until it finds a forward slash, and then going to replace it with null character. So this should give me the same output. Yeah, gives me the same output. So what it's going to do is that I call it for the second time. So it's going to start from here, and then going to read until it finds the delimiter I have specified in this function. It doesn't always has to be a comma. In the first instance it was the comma, in the second instance it's the forward slash. And now the forward slash is replaced by the null character, and the memory address of capital B is written by the strtalk function. And then by that we can separate that value from the entire string. Alright, hopefully that's clear. If it's not, I will link down a YouTube video that was about 10 minutes long. Okay, so you can watch that if what I said wasn't clear enough. Okay, that's function number one. Okay, so strtalk, and then there's another function called the other function is strchr. Okay, strchr. Technically what we want is strchr. It you will understand strchr if you understand what strchr does. Okay, so this is the function we want. Function we want. Okay, for before we take a look at strchr, let's take a look at strchr. So what this does is that it looks uh, for an instance of a character I defined in the I pass as an argument, and then it's going to return the memory address of it. So let's say that I have an array. Okay, let's use the same name again, like this. So abc dot hello forward slash, and then let's use something else, punchi sorry, and then hash 69, and so that this is it. Let's do something else. 56. No, that's not gonna work. Let's use the dollar sign. Okay, so this is a string. Okay, so it has many characters. You have a dot, a forward slash, a hash symbol, and a dollar sign. So what strchr is gonna do is that it's gonna give us the position of the character we specify. So let's see strchr, and then the first argument we need to pass is the string, so it is arr, and the character we need to find is the dot. Alright, so it should so what it's going to do is that it's going to give the memory address of this dot. Okay, so what should we do after getting the memory address? Okay, let's print the memory address of both. So memory address of AR. So this should give me the same value, and yes they do. So that's what it does. So if I want to uh, read the string from starting from a particular character, all I have to do is that find the memory address of that character and then pass that value uh, to wherever you want to read. So let's say that I want to read from let's start reading from the forward slash instead of the dot. Okay, it doesn't have to be characters, you can use letters as well. So let's start reading from the first L. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. So what I'm doing is that I'm uh, passing the memory address of the first L, and it's gonna start reading until it finds null character, null terminator. Right. So yeah, so hope those two functions are clear. Okay, we are gonna need those two functions to process pass the request. All right. Yeah. If they are clear, then replay the video or maybe check out another YouTube tutorial that might explain things at length a little bit better. Okay. Uh, so since those two are done, let's get into the code and start processing. Start passing the request.